When we talk about believing more, it is not just about believing in success or in some distant dream. It is about believing in yourself in the small everyday moments when doubt tries to creep in. Believing more is not a one-time choice. It is a muscle you strengthen over time. Think about how often you tell yourself you are not ready, not enough, or that the timing is wrong. Those moments are not reflections of reality. They are reflections of fear. Fear disguises itself as logic, as caution as being realistic. But in truth, it is the voice that holds you back from discovering what you are really capable of. Believing more means learning to recognize that voice and choosing not to let it dictate your life. Imagine a time when you thought you could not do something, and yet you tried, and you surprised yourself with how much you achieved. That is proof. That is evidence. But the problem is, we tend to forget those victories and hold on tightly to our failures. We replay mistakes over and over in our minds as if they are permanent evidence that we are not good enough. Believing more is shifting that focus. It is choosing to collect the moments when you did succeed, when you did push through, when you did overcome, and making those your reminders of what is possible. The truth is, you will never feel perfectly ready. Waiting for certainty before you take action is like waiting for the ocean to be completely still before you step into the water. Life is always moving, always uncertain. The people who move forward are not the ones who know exactly how everything will turn out, but the ones who decide to believe more in themselves than in the obstacles in front of them. And believing more does not mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let your fears write your story. It means saying, yes, the mountain looks high. Yes, the journey feels overwhelming, but I will not shrink myself because of it. I will step forward anyway, because the version of me I am becoming cannot be built if I keep standing still. Sometimes believing more starts with the smallest step, It could be making the call you have been avoiding, saying yes to the opportunity you feel underqualified for, or simply telling yourself in the mirror, I am worthy. Each time you do that, you stretch the boundaries of who you think you are. You expand the limits of your own possibility. And once you start to believe more, something powerful happens. People begin to believe in you too. The world reflects back the energy you put into it. If you carry yourself like you belong, you are capable, like you have value, people respond to that. Confidence is contagious, but it starts with a decision you make in private before anyone else notices. It starts with you choosing today to believe just a little more than you did yesterday. So the next time that voice of doubt shows up, pause, ask yourself, what would I do if I chose to believe more right now? And then do that. That is where growth begins. That is where your story changes. And that is where you discover that the life you thought was out of reach was only waiting for you to believe enough to claim it. Believe in yourself when doubt feels loudest. It sounds simple when spoken, but living it in the raw moments of your life can feel like standing in a storm with no shelter. Doubt always arrives with a voice that feels familiar, almost convincing, whispering reasons why you should hold back, why you are not ready, why failure is inevitable. That voice often disguises itself as protection, but in reality, it is a thief. It robs you of experiences, of growth, of opportunities that could have changed your life. Believing in yourself when doubt is loudest means refusing to let that thief take over your choices. Think about the last time you really wanted something, but did not act on it. Maybe you wanted to speak up in a room, but your mind shouted, what if they laugh? What if you say it wrong? Maybe you wanted to go for that opportunity, but you told yourself, I am not qualified enough. Those are the moments where the voice of doubt is deafening. And yet, those are also the very moments when believing in yourself matters most. If belief were easy in those moments, everyone would be living their biggest life. But the truth is, belief requires courage when everything inside you says otherwise. Believing in yourself when doubt is loudest is not about silencing the noise. It is about choosing not to obey it. You do not have to erase your fear to move forward. You simply need to refuse to give it power over your actions. Imagine holding doubt in one hand and belief in the other. Which one you feed, which one you listen to, becomes the force that steers your next step. When you believe in yourself, even in the storm of doubt, something shifts inside you. You begin to see that you are stronger than you thought. You discover resilience that was hidden beneath layers of hesitation. Every single person you admire, every leader, every innovator, every dreamer faced moments when doubt screamed louder than belief. The difference is they did not let it dictate their destiny. They stood taller in the noise. They acted anyway. Your doubt may tell you that you do not have what it takes, but belief reminds you that nobody who ever achieved greatness started with certainty. They started with courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move forward in spite of it. Picture yourself in 10 years. Would you rather look back and say, I tried even though I was scared, or I let doubt decide for me? Regret is the shadow that follows when you give in to the loud voice of self-doubt. Belief, however, creates stories you will be proud to tell. It is in the quiet after you take that first scary step that you realize doubt was never telling you the truth. It was only testing your resolve. Every single time you act in the face of doubt, you weaken its grip. You train yourself to see that fear is not a signal to stop, but a sign you are on the edge of growth. And here is the beautiful part. You do not need to conquer doubt forever. You only need to believe in yourself enough for the next step. Then the next, then the next, then the next. Each step builds a track record of courage. Each step proves to yourself that you can be trusted with your own dreams. So the next time doubt grows loud, pause, feel it, acknowledge it, and then remind yourself, I do not need certainty. I need belief, and then take the step. Because the life you want is waiting on the other side of that decision, and you will never find it if you let doubt make the choice for you. That is what it means to believe in yourself when doubt feels loudest. It is the defining difference between the life you settle for and the life you are truly capable of living. Collect your victories, not just your failures. This simple idea can completely transform the way you see yourself and the way you live your life. Most people carry their failures like heavy luggage. They remember every time they stumbled, every rejection, every mistake, and they replay those memories in their minds until they start to believe that those failures define them. But here is the truth. Failures are not who you are. They are just moments. They are experiences, and they are not the full picture of your journey. If you want to move forward with strength, you need to start shifting your focus toward the victories you already have. Think about how you talk to yourself when you reflect on your past. Do you instantly recall the times you did not succeed? Or do you remember the moments you pushed through something hard and came out stronger? Most of us are wired to notice the negative more than the positive. Psychologists call this the negativity bias. Bodhi bias. It means your brain naturally clings to the bad and overlooks the good. But if you let that bias run your life, you will walk around blind to your own strength. That is why collecting your victories matters. It is a way of reminding yourself that you are capable, resilient, and far more powerful than you often give yourself credit for. Your victories do not need to be massive achievements to count. Sometimes the most important ones are small and personal. Maybe you spoke up when it was easier to stay silent. Maybe you kept going when giving up would have been the more comfortable choice. Maybe you got out of bed on a day when everything inside you wanted to stay down. These moments are victories too. They may not look glamorous, but they are evidence of your courage and perseverance. Collecting your victories means writing them down, holding on to them, replaying them in your mind the way you often replay your failures. Imagine keeping a journal where, instead of listing everything that went wrong, you write one thing every day that you did right. Over time, that becomes a library of proof, a track record of your ability to keep showing up. When doubt comes knocking, you can turn to that library and remind yourself, I have already overcome so much. I can do this too. Why does this matter so much? Because your brain needs evidence to believe. You cannot just tell yourself, I am confident, and expect it to stick. Your mind wants proof. And when you collect your victories, you build a portfolio of proof that fuels your belief in yourself. The more evidence you gather, the louder that belief becomes until eventually it drowns out the voice of doubt. Think of athletes. Before a big competition, they do not sit around replaying all the times they lost. They replay the times they won. They visualize their best performances. Performances. They step into the arena fueled by memories of their strength, not haunted by their mistakes. You can live your life the same way. You can choose to let your victories be the fuel that carries you forward. Of course, failures have their purpose. They teach, they shape, they guide. But they are not supposed to be your anchor. They are supposed to be lessons you learn from and let go of, while victories are the fuel you carry with you. If you do not intentionally collect your wins, the weight of your failures will always feel heavier than it should. So starting today, make it a practice. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what is one thing I did well today? Where did I win? Write it down. Celebrate it. Hold on to it. And when you feel like you are not enough, go back and read those moments. Let them remind you of who you really are, a person who has overcome, who has achieved, who has stepped forward when it was not easy. Your life is not defined by the failures you remember. It is defined by the victories you choose to collect. And when you start gathering those wins, you will begin to see yourself differently. You will walk taller. You will speak with more certainty. And most importantly, you will believe more deeply in what you are capable of. That is the power of collecting your victories. It changes not only how you see your past, but how you step into your future. Stop waiting to feel perfectly ready. This idea might be one of the hardest truths to accept, but once you do, it will liberate you from years of hesitation. The belief that we must wait until everything aligns, until we are confident enough, skilled enough, prepared enough, keeps countless people stuck in the same place for far too long. If you are waiting to feel ready, you are giving fear a subtle way of controlling your life. Because the truth is, you will almost never feel fully ready for the things that truly matter. Growth always happens on the edge of discomfort. And that edge never feels like readiness. It feels like risk. Think about the milestones in your life when you made a leap. Your first job, your first presentation, the first time you tried something completely unfamiliar. Were you fully ready for any of those moments? Most likely not. You probably stepped in with nerves, with uncertainty, maybe even with fear in your stomach. And yet, by doing it, you became ready. That is how it works. Readiness is not the starting point, it is the outcome. Where too many people sit on their dreams like they are waiting for a bus that has not arrived yet. They tell themselves, I will start when I feel more confident, or I will try when I know more. But confidence is not the prerequisite. It is the byproduct. It is the byproduct. Knowledge expands when you act, not when you overthink. Waiting for readiness is just another form of procrastination, dressed up as logic. The people who move forward in life are not the ones who wait until the fear is gone. They are the ones who accept that fear as part of the process and step anyway. Picture a swimmer standing on the edge of a cold pool. They can wait all day for the water to somehow feel warmer, but it never will. The only way to adjust is to jump in. The longer they wait, the harder it feels. Life is the same. The longer you wait for readiness, the heavier hesitation becomes, until one day you realize you have lost more time than you can afford. What if, instead of asking, am I ready? You asked, am I willing? Willing to try, willing to learn, willing to stumble, but grow. That question changes everything, because willingness is a choice you control right now, while readiness is a feeling that may never come. The irony is, the people you admire, the entrepreneurs, the artists, the leaders, the risk takers, they were not perfectly ready either. They stepped out before they knew all the answers. They figured things out along the way. And because they acted, they grew into readiness. You have that same ability. You do not need every detail in place. You just need enough belief to begin. Here is the mindset shift. Stop treating readiness as a requirement and start treating action as the path to it. When you take the first step, you gather data, you gain experience, and with that, you naturally become more prepared. Each action builds a layer of competence, and with competence comes confidence. That is the cycle you want, not waiting but moving. It is also important to recognize that waiting for readiness is usually tied to perfectionism. You want the timing to be perfect, the conditions to be ideal, your skill set to be flawless. But perfection does not exist. Conditions will always be a little messy, timing will always feel inconvenient, and your skill will always have room to grow. If you can accept imperfection as part of the process, you set yourself free. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I will start when I am ready, stop and challenge that thought. Ask yourself, what small step can I take today, even while feeling unready? Do that step. Then the next. Suddenly, you will notice that readiness is not some distant state. It is something you create by showing up. If you want to write a book, do not wait until you feel like an author. Start by writing a page. If you want to launch a business, do not wait until you know everything. Start by testing an idea. If you want to change your life, do not wait for the perfect moment. Make a move now, however small, because the truth is this, the perfect time is never coming. But this moment right now is more powerful than you think. And if you choose to act without waiting to feel perfectly ready, You will look back one day and realize that was the moment your future began. Trust your strength more than your fear. This principle can redefine the way you approach challenges in your life. Fear is loud, persuasive, and often feels overwhelming, but your strength, though quieter, runs deeper than you imagine. The problem is that many people mistake the volume of fear for the truth. Just because fear shouts, it does not mean it is right. Your strength may whisper, but it holds the power to carry you through storms that fear insists you cannot survive. Fear is built to protect you. It tells you not to risk embarrassment, not to step into the unknown, not to reach beyond what feels safe. But if you listen too closely, fear begins to act less like a guard and more like a prison. You end up standing at the edges of opportunities, watching them pass by, all because fear convinced you that you were not capable. Trusting your strength is choosing to remember that you have faced hard things before, and you will again. Think about the times in your life when you felt certain you could not make it through, but you did. Perhaps it was heartbreak. Perhaps it was failure. Perhaps it was standing in the middle of a situation that felt impossible. In those moments, fear probably told you, you will not get through this. And yet, here you are. That is evidence. That is proof of your strength. It might not have been easy, and maybe you still carry scars from it, but the fact that you survived shows that your strength has always been greater than your fear. The challenge is that fear arrives first. It is immediate. It hits you before your strength has time to remind you of itself. That is why trusting your strength requires an intentional pause. When fear says, you cannot do this, you must train yourself to stop and remember, I have done hard things before. I am stronger than I feel right now. This shift changes everything. This shift changes everything. Your strength is not about pretending you are invincible. It is about acknowledging that even when you are scared, even when you feel unprepared, you can take the next step. Courage is not about erasing fear. It is about choosing strength in the presence of fear. And every time you do that, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. Here is the irony. Fear often exaggerates what will go wrong, while strength quietly shows up when you need it most. How many times have you worried endlessly about something, only to find that when the moment came, you rose to the occasion? That is your strength at work. Fear may have told you the worst would happen, but strength gave you the resilience to handle it. Trusting that strength means remembering that the version of you who shows up in the hard moments is stronger than the version of you who imagines disaster beforehand. It is also important to realize that strength grows the more you use it. The first time you act in spite of fear, it feels terrifying. The second time, still uncomfortable. But over time, your mind begins to learn. I can feel fear and still move forward. Each repetition builds resilience, and soon your strength begins to speak louder than your fear. Voo. Trusting your strength is also about redefining what success looks like. It is not always about winning or achieving exactly what you hoped for. Sometimes success is simply not letting fear dictate your choices. Sometimes it is taking the leap, even if you stumble, because the act of moving forward itself proves that fear does not control you. And that is a victory worth celebrating. So the next time fear shows up, and it will, pause and ask yourself, what would it look like if I trusted my strength right now? Then act from that place. You will find that strength gives you clarity, focus, and courage that fear cannot provide. You have reservoirs of resilience you have not even tapped yet. You have endured storms, losses, and setbacks that once felt impossible. But here you are, still standing. That is strength. That is proof. And if you can survive those moments, then you can certainly handle what lies ahead. Trust your strength more than your fear, because fear is temporary, but your strength is permanent. Fear fades when the moment passes, but your strength stays with you, ready to carry you through the next challenge. When you begin to live with that truth, you stop shrinking from life and start stepping into it. And that is where you find not only growth, but freedom. Take small steps that build big belief. So often we get caught up thinking that transformation must come from massive, dramatic action. We imagine that success means making one huge leap that changes everything overnight. But in reality, belief in yourself does not grow from one giant act. It grows from the consistent small steps you choose to take every single day. Those steps may feel insignificant in the moment, but they are the foundation upon which your confidence is built. Think about it like climbing a staircase. You do not reach the top by leaping 10 flights in one bound. You climb one step, then another, then another, then another. Each step builds momentum, and each step proves to you that you are capable of going further. The same is true with belief. You do not suddenly wake up one day overflowing with confidence. You earn it through the accumulation of small wins that remind you of your strength. The mistake many people make is waiting for belief before they begin. They tell themselves, I will take action. Once I feel confident, I feel confident. But that is not how it works. Confidence is not the requirement. It is the result. It is only after you take the step, after you show yourself what you are capable of, that belief starts to grow. Waiting for confidence before you act is like waiting for firewood to ignite before you light the match. It is the act of striking the match, taking the step, that creates the flame. Small steps matter because they are doable. They are not overwhelming. They are not paralyzing. If you want to start exercising, you do not need to run a marathon on day one. Just put on your shoes and go for a walk. A walk? If you want to write a book, you do not need to write 300 pages in one sitting. Just start with one paragraph. If you want to build a business, you do not need the perfect master plan. Just test one idea. These steps may look small, but each one whispers to your mind, I can do this. And over time, those whispers become a roar of belief. The beauty of small steps is that they create evidence. Every time you follow through, you are building a track record with yourself. You are proving that you can trust your own word. That trust is the essence of self-belief. When you say, I will do this, and you follow through, you send a message to your mind. I am reliable. I am capable. I am capable. I can depend on me. That is how belief becomes unshakable, not by external validation, but by keeping promises to yourself one small step at a time. And do not underestimate the power of momentum. Small steps compound. The walk becomes a jog. The jog becomes a run. The paragraph becomes a page. The page becomes a chapter. The test idea becomes a thriving business. Momentum is what transforms the tiny into the extraordinary. But momentum only begins when you choose the first small step instead of waiting for the perfect big one. Of course, fear often dismisses small steps. Fear will tell you that is not enough. That will not matter. But that is a lie. Small steps are how every big achievement begins. No athlete, no artist, no leader started at the top. They started with something small, something humble, something that seemed almost invisible at the time. But they trusted the process. They trusted that each step mattered, even when it felt ordinary. And that trust is what built their extraordinary. So the question is not, what massive leap can I take today? The question is, what small step can I take right now? It may be sending the email, making the call, signing up, showing up, or simply starting. So that one step can be the spark that sets everything else in motion. When you look back years from now, you will not see your journey as one giant leap. You will see a trail of small steps that added up to something extraordinary. And the beautiful part is, you do not need to wait for some perfect moment to begin. You can take one of those steps today. Right now. Take small steps that build big belief, because belief is not something you are given, it is something you create. And once you build it, step by step, there will be nothing you cannot do. Carry yourself like you belong. This is more than just posture or appearance. It is a mindset, a way of being, and a decision you make about how you show up in the world. Too many people walk through life apologizing for their existence, shrinking themselves, or waiting for someone else to give them permission to step forward. But here is the truth. Belonging is not something you wait to be granted. Belonging is something you claim. Carrying yourself like you belong is about stepping into rooms, opportunities, and relationships with the energy that says, I deserve to be here. When you carry yourself like you belong, people respond to you differently. Humans are wired to pick up on energy. If you walk in uncertain, hunched, hesitant, and small, others unconsciously believe you should not be there. But if you walk in with presence, if you hold your head high, if you meet eyes with assurance, even if you are nervous inside, people will sense that confidence. They will see you as someone worth noticing, someone worth respecting. Confidence is contagious, but it starts with you first convincing yourself. This does not mean arrogance. Carrying yourself like you belong is not about pretending to be better than anyone else. It is not about demanding attention or forcing authority. It is about quiet certainty. It is about knowing that your value is not up for debate, that your worth is not something that needs validation from others. It is about deciding that you are enough right now, as you are, to take up space in the world. Think of the times you held back because you doubted you belonged. Maybe you were in a meeting and wanted to share an idea, but told yourself, who am I to say this? Maybe you saw an opportunity, but thought, someone else is more qualified. That hesitation is the gap between fear and belonging. Fear tells you to wait until you are more experienced, more skilled, more perfect. Belonging tells you to start where you are and grow into it. Carrying yourself like you belong means embodying the person you are becoming, not just the person you are today. It is stepping into the role before you feel ready. It is choosing to align your body language, your tone, and your mindset with the future version of yourself that already owns the space. When you do that, you create a self-fulfilling prophecy. You begin to attract the opportunities that match that energy because people see in you what you are already choosing to project. And let's be honest, most of the people you look up to felt like imposters at some point. They had doubts, they had fears, they questioned themselves. The difference is they did not let that stop them from showing up with presence. They carried themselves as though they belonged until eventually it became true. That is how growth works. You act as though you belong, and soon your actions create evidence that you do. If you struggle with this, start with small shifts. Straighten your back. Look people in the eyes when you speak. Slow your pace instead of rushing through interactions. Use your voice with clarity instead of hesitation. These may feel like small adjustments, but they send signals to your brain and to others that you are grounded, that you believe in your place. Over time, these signals create a deeper sense of internal confidence. Carrying yourself like you belong also means allowing yourself to be seen. Too often, people hide. They keep their gifts quiet, their talents tucked away because they are afraid of judgment. But if you hide, the world cannot benefit from what you bring. Belonging is not just for you. It is for the people whose lives will be touched because you had the courage to step forward. So, the next time you enter a room, do not wait for the invitation to belong, decide you already do. Carry yourself like your presence adds value, because it does. Walk in with the energy of someone who deserves to be there, because you do. And speak, move, and act from a place of quiet confidence, even if your nerves are loud inside. Because here is the truth. The world will not hand you belonging. You must choose it. You must embody it. And once you do, doors will open, opportunities will expand, and people will begin to treat you according to the way you treat yourself. Carry yourself like you belong, and soon enough, you will realize you always did. Let confidence become contagious. Confidence is not only about how you feel inside, it is about the ripple effect it creates around you. When you carry yourself with belief, assurance, and strength, you influence the way others perceive you. But more importantly, you influence the way they perceive themselves. Confidence has energy, and that energy spreads. It inspires people, it builds trust, and it creates momentum in ways that hesitation never could. Think about the people who have inspired you in your own life. Were they the ones who doubted every word they said? Or were they the ones who spoke with conviction, who carried themselves with certainty, even if they were not perfect? Confidence is magnetic. When someone stands tall, speaks with clarity, and acts with decisiveness, others naturally lean in. They want to follow, they want to learn, they want to believe. That is the contagious nature of confidence. It multiplies itself. The key is understanding that confidence does not mean you have all the answers. It does not mean you never doubt or never feel fear. Confidence is not perfection. It is presence. It is the choice to show up as though you belong, to speak as though your voice matters, and to act as though you are capable, even if your inner critic is screaming otherwise. People are not drawn to flawless individuals. They are drawn to those who move with conviction despite their flaws. When you allow your confidence to spread, you give others permission to step into theirs. A child watching their parent take bold steps learns that bravery is possible. A team watching their leader make decisions with assurance gains the courage to do the same. A friend watching you chase your dreams may finally decide to chase their own. This is how your confidence becomes bigger than you. It becomes a gift to the people around you. Confidence is also contagious in another way. The way you treat yourself sets a tone for how others treat you. If you carry yourself like you doubt your worth, people will sense it, and some may mirror that doubt back to you. But if you carry yourself like you know your value, others will rise to meet that standard. They will respond to the certainty you project. This is not arrogance, it is self-respect, and self-respect radiates outward. But here is the important part. Confidence is built, not born. Nobody wakes up one day with endless certainty. It comes from small actions repeated over time. It comes from doing the things that scare you, surviving them, and realizing you are still standing. Each step adds a brick to the foundation of your confidence. And once that foundation is strong, it becomes unshakable enough to support not just you, but the people who draw strength from you. The contagious nature of confidence also means you have a responsibility. When you choose to act from belief instead of fear, you are not only changing your life, you are influencing the lives of those around you. Your courage may be the spark that ignites someone else's. Your boldness may be the example they needed, You never truly know who is watching, who is being inspired by the way you carry yourself, even in the smallest moments. Think of confidence as light. When you shine it, you do not just brighten your own path, you make it easier for others to see theirs. That is the true power of letting confidence become contagious. It creates a chain reaction of courage. One person's step forward becomes the reason another person takes theirs. So how do you let your confidence spread? Start by practicing it in the little things. How you walk into a room, how you greet someone, how you share your ideas. Even when you feel nervous, choose to act with presence. That choice builds confidence in you, and it sets an example for others. Before long, your energy will begin to influence the atmosphere around you. Remember this, the world does not need more people hiding their light. It needs more people brave enough to stand tall, speak up, and move with conviction. Your confidence has the power to create that change, not just for you, but for everyone touched by your presence. So let your confidence become contagious. Let it ripple out in your words, in your actions, and in the way you carry yourself. Because when you do, you are not only building your own future, you are unlocking the courage in others to build theirs too. Choose to believe more today than yesterday. At first, it might sound like a small decision, but it is one of the most powerful choices you can make for your future. Belief is not a switch that you flip on once and never touch again. It is not a single event. It is a daily practice. Every day you are given a choice. Will you allow yesterday's doubts to define you, or will you choose to believe just a little more in yourself, in your path, and in what is possible? The danger most people fall into is thinking belief has to come all at once. They wait for a lightning bolt of certainty to strike before they move forward. But belief does not usually arrive like that. Belief grows in increments. It grows when you choose to see progress where you once saw failure. It grows when you choose to focus on possibility instead of limitation. It grows when you choose to trust that the person you are becoming is stronger than the person you were yesterday. Choosing to believe more today than yesterday does not mean ignoring your doubts. It means refusing to let them be the final word. Yesterday, you may have listened to the voice that said, "You are not good enough." Today, you can respond with, "And maybe I am more capable than I thought." Yesterday, you may have looked at the mountain ahead and felt overwhelmed. Today, you can choose to focus on the next step instead of the entire climb. That is what believing more looks like. It is a shift in perspective, repeated daily, until your life looks completely different. Think about how far you have already come. There was a time when the life you are living now felt impossible. There were moments you thought you would not get through, and yet you did. And that is proof that you already have the ability to grow in belief. If you can look back and see progress, then you can look forward and trust there is more waiting for you. The beauty of this practice is that it does not require perfection. You do not need to suddenly erase all fear. You do not need to become unshakably confident overnight. All you need is to choose belief in small doses. Maybe today you speak up once when you would have stayed quiet yesterday. Maybe today you send the application you were afraid to send last week. Maybe today you simply wake up and tell yourself, "I am worthy of trying again." These are small daily choices, but together they create a powerful transformation. Belief compounds the same way doubt does. If you choose doubt every day, it grows stronger, heavier, and more convincing. But if you choose belief just a little more each day, it begins to compound in your favor. It builds momentum, it strengthens your self-image, and before long, you start to see yourself differently, not as someone stuck in fear, but as someone capable of growth, risk, and achievement. The reason this matters so much is because life is not built in years. It is built in days. The way you choose to believe today shapes the actions you take, and those actions shape your future. Waiting for some far-off moment to start believing in yourself is a recipe for regret. But if you choose to believe a little more today than you did yesterday, your future will thank you for it. Remember, believing more does not mean believing blindly. It means building on what you already know to be true about yourself. If you survived yesterday, you are stronger today. If you learned from a mistake last week, you are wiser now. If you kept moving when you wanted to quit, you have proof of resilience. These are not abstract ideas. They are concrete evidence that you can trust yourself to grow stronger each day, dear. So the invitation is simple. Every morning when you wake up, ask yourself, how can I believe a little more today than I did yesterday? Then act on that answer. Take the small step. Speak the word of encouragement. Remind yourself of your progress. That is how belief is built. Not in leaps, but in daily choices. Over time, this practice transforms you. One day you will look back and realize the person you have become is living a life that the person you were yesterday could hardly imagine. And it all started with one choice, to believe more today than you did the day before. At the heart of it all, believing more is not about waiting for the perfect moment, erasing fear, or becoming flawless. It is about choosing every single day to trust yourself a little more than you did yesterday. It is about carrying your victories forward, walking with quiet confidence, and daring to act even when you feel unready. If you can commit to that, if you can decide to keep moving, keep growing, and keep believing, then nothing will be able to hold you back. Because the life you dream of is not waiting for someone else. It is waiting for you to finally believe you are worthy of it.